Hi, hello, and welcome to my November reading wrap up. So, this month I read a total of 14 books. Let's just say that I was in my cowboy era because out of those 14 books, 8 were cowboy romances. Don't ask me what happened, but it somehow happened. I also read a lot of novellas this month, so many holiday Christmassy novellas, to get in the spirit. So let's get into all the books I read this November. Starting the month with obviously a cowboy romance, Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope. This book follows Sissy and Nash. Sissy returns to her hometown after leaving a toxic relationship and sparks fights between her and Nash, who is her brother's friend and a former hockey player. Well, so this book started really good and I was really laid out in it, but then the main characters got together and I don't know what happened, but the story got lost in the spice. Like, how can the main characters build a good and long relationship that will last if they are always on top of each other? I had to give this book 2.75 stars. Anyway, the only reason why I kept going was because I was really invested in Wade and Ivy's relationship, which are two side characters, and which brings us to the second book in the series where they are the main couple. Training the Heart by Paisley Hope. So Wade is a rancher and Ivy is a horse trainer. I'm so glad this book was so much better than the first one, but still it wasn't so much of my liking because no one warned me. This book has the accidental pregnancy trope. Not a single review I read before getting into this novel said anything about it. But in the end, I didn't particularly mind it though. The MNC in this novel, literal perfection, and his chemistry with Ivy was peerless. I rated this book 3.75 stars. Another cowboy romance, Lost and Lassoed by Lyla Sage. Oh my god, I ate this up. This book follows Teddy and Gus. Teddy is facing some difficulties lately while questioning her future, and Gus is a single dad cowboy and her best friend's brother. So Teddy starts a job nannying his daughter. Teddy and Gus are officially my favorite couple from this series. I was waiting to read their love story since the first one, and I've totally loved their dynamic and their banter since the very beginning. And now it's safe to say that I'm not disappointed at all on how the story went. I'm obsessed with them. I loved every single thing about this book. Definitely, hands down, one of my top reads this year. I gave it 5 stars. Moving on to something darker, I read Lights Out by Navessa Alien. Okay, you must have heard about this book as somewhere on Book Talk at least once. This book follows Ali and Joss. Ali is a nurse, but in her free time, she's like into watching masked men on social media, so she sends a screenshot of it to her Flynn, which takes us to Joss, who is her Flynn's roommate and the masked man of the screenshot she sent. So when Joss sees it, the best thing he can think of to do is to stalk her. We as a society need more like romantic comedies. This book was so funny, and just being a stalker with golden retriever energy was the best thing ever. I read this on my Kindle while also listening to the audiobook, and I feel I'll have to search a physical copy of this book soon as well. The narrators on the audiobook did such an amazing work and even make the book better. I gave it 4.75 stars. If you like it, Bosch and Blackbird by Brent Weaver, you need to read this one ASAP. Now, this is when my Christmas season officially started, and I read the Under the Mistletoe collection novellas. They are a collection of 5 novellas, and even though they're by different authors, I counted this one as just one book. Well, overall, these are just some very cute holiday novellas. You can totally read them all in one day. Cruel Winter with You and Merriment and Mayhem were my favorite ones. I gave them both 5 stars. Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood follows Jamie and Mark. They are childhood friends who reunite when they get stranded together during a blizzard. This novella is only 73 pages long, and I wish it was longer because it got me wanted to know more of their love story. Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellefleur was such a fun read. I totally loved it. It centers around Everly and Griffin. Everly is a woman who's recently lost her aunt, and she's in her late aunt's house to gather her things when she accidentally burns some cookies she was making, and the firefighters arrive to the house, which bring us to Griffin, who is one of those firefighters. Then we have Only Santas in the Building by Alexis Daria. I give this one 3.5 stars. This novella follows Evie and Theo. Evie is a comic book illustrator who has been crushing on her upstairs neighbor since she moved in, and Theo is that neighbor who also has been secretly crushing on her. All by My Elf by Olivia Dade. This one follows Nina and William. There are two professors with secret feelings for each other, and a snowstorm strung them together during their holiday side hustle. This novella was weird to say the least. I rated it 2.75 stars. And lastly, Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. Definitely not Tessa Bailey's best work. I gave it 2 stars and I was being too generous. This reminds me why I stopped reading her books. If I had to read one more time about how big he is, I might have lost it. Anyway, moving on. Penalized Love by Emery Paige. I read this as an arc. This is a second chance romance between a hockey player and the coach's daughter, who also happens to be the team photographer. It's the second book in the Crossbook University series, and just as the first book, this is such a cute novel. This book centers around Isla and Asher. Isla is forced to go back to her hometown and transferred to Crossbook University after being diagnosed with PCOS. And Asher is a hockey player who she had a summer fling with. I really loved the beginning of this novel. The story started so good, it was so engaging, and I was really invested in it. But the second half of the book felt a bit boring to me, to the point it got me dissociating a lot. Regardless, I'm glad I could catch up at the end and loved it. Yet, I wish the backstory of the breakup was explained in more detail, as well as Asher and Isla's own issues. I rated this one 3.75 stars. Back to more cowboy romances, we have A Life on Wheels by Bailey Hanna. I talked about how I wanted to read this book on a video I'll be uploading soon, where I talk about the books I wanted to read before the year ends, and right after I finished filming that video, I went straight into reading this. Bailey Hanna is a newly author to me, and this is actually her debut novel. It was really impressive how well it is written. This book follows Cecily and Austin. Cecily is escaping an abusive marriage and ends up working on Austin's cattle ranch. I didn't quite like some things from this storyline, but overall it was really cute and delightful. I gave it 3.75 stars. Scene read by Bailey Hanna. Didn't know how to properly rate this book, but I don't care. It's getting 5 full stars. The resemblance to Reckless by Elsie Silver is really there, and I think that's why I'm biased. This book follows Cassidy and Chase. Cassidy is a woman who just got out of a relationship, and Chase is a cowboy who has been crushing on her for a long time. So they have a one-night stand that ends in surprise. So this book has the accidental pregnancy trope, which to this point, everyone must know I despise it, but I really enjoyed this book and I loved how Chase is obsessed with her and has been for years. And Cassidy's character development was also awesome to read, so yeah, 5 stars. Since I was already around here, I had to read Bailey Hanna's holiday novel as well, Christmas at Fox Ridge. This book follows Era and Lucas. Lucas is Era's best friend's brother. They have a one-night stand, but reneged months later when she rents a cabin on his ranch. For being a novella under 200 pages, it felt way too long. Probably because the main characters were already together early on, and so the storyline felt repetitive. Also, more Christmas vibes were needed. I gave it 3 stars. Another holiday novella, The Best You've Ever Had by Amelia, Chasen. I got recommended this one by someone on my Bookstagram, and oh my god, did I finish this book or did this book finish me? It hit way too close to home. This book follows Lyla and Ben. They are 2 childhood frenemies who haven't seen each other in the longest time. but Lyla returns to their hometown when Ben's granddad falls ill. This book was so sad and cute and wholesome all at once. I gave it 4.5 stars. This holiday novella is really worth reading, so if you're looking for a book to break you and put you back together, this is the one. Another book I wanted to read before the year ended was Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I always have so many mixed feelings with Lauren Asher's books. This book follows Ellie and Raphael. Ellie is a songwriter who faces some issues when a friend of hers steals some of her songs. Enter Raphael, who offers her a job to be a live-in nanny and music teacher for his son. They avoid each other at all costs, but then a summer vacation with forced proximity happens. Listen, I don't mind long books as long as the story unfolds correctly, but the fact that these authors' novels are long as hell throws me a bit off. Like, it's hard to keep concentrated when there are lots of filler scenes. But anyway, this book has so much complexity, and I think it might be one of the best books Lauren Asher has ever written. I gave it 4 stars. Diving again into something darker, we have The Wrong Drive by Annie Weil. A dark holiday novella? Say less. I'm gonna be honest, reading the blurb, I wasn't sure whether I liked this book or not, but all the amazing reviews convinced me to give it a try, and I'm glad I did because it was surprisingly good. This book follows Emerson and Turner. Turner is a retired veteran who suffers from PTSD and has been hiding from the rest of the world in the middle of nowhere. When Emerson is on her way to spend a few days in a cabin with her boyfriend, she gets stranded in a blizzard and accidentally stomps into Turner's driver as the storm traps them together. The suspense was really intriguing. I really couldn't stop myself from reading, just wanting to know what was going to happen next. The storyline really keeps you on the edge until the very end. I like this novella so much, and I'm sure I'll be reading more from Annie Weil in the future. I gave this one 4 stars. Cash by Jessica Peterson. I love me a good cowboy romance. This book follows Molly and Cash. Molly is a city girl who inherits their father's cattle ranch and must manage it for a year in order to access her inheritance, and Cash is a cowboy foreman in said ranch. I liked this book way more than I was expecting when I started it. It was really good. This is another small town cowboy romance with forced proximity, and I always eat those up. And the witty banter was amazing. I rated it 4 stars. I can't wait to read the next book in the series, which comes out in late December. And to end my November, I read Sleigh, You'll Stay by Michelle Garyfalakis. I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This book really summed up my whole November because this is actually a cowboy holiday romance, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this was so bad. This book follows Kat and Oliver. Kat heads to this horse ranch looking for a fresh start, only to clash with Oliver, who is the ranch's lead hand. Listen, I tried. I really tried to love this book. I even tried to convince myself that I was enjoying it, but no, I wasn't. Short review will say that maybe this author's writing was not for me, but hell. There were so many cringy scenes. The FMC was so annoying. I literally could not stand her. And the main characters went from hating each other to being in love like too quickly. I've been so close to DNFing too many times, so I gave it 2 stars, and that was me being generous. So those were all the 15 books I read in November. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe and to follow me on all my socials. See you really soon for Bookmas season.